Hi, this is Maureen Klewicki, Program Director for the Cedars-Sinai Accelerator powered by Techstars. I am joined by Dima, who is the CEO and co-founder of Invio, and we're going to do a mini podcast talking about Invio and Dima's experience with the Accelerator program. So Dima, how's it going?
It's going great. Feels good to be done. Exciting transition period.
Yes, a fresh alumni, that is for certain. So I'd love to kick this off by you introducing yourself and just telling us a bit about your background.
Yeah. Well, as Maureen mentioned, I'm Dima Papa, CEO of Invio. I have about 11 years of experience in clinical trials and research regulations, which, as we'll get to in a moment, is very relevant to what my company does. Really for me, clinical research has been the big focus of my profession. I think it's just a really fantastic space because it contributes so much to the development of new medications and therapies. And for me, it's fun because it's both cutting edge work, but also really beneficial to society.
Great. So with that, why don't we dive into Invio? If you could tell us, what Invio does, how many people are on the team, and sort of the stage that you were at entering the program.
Yeah, so we're a younger company. We're about a year and a half old, but our emphasis is on improving some of the workflows in clinical trials. So specifically, due to the heavy regulation and the specialized workflows that exist, binders full of paper is still really the main tool that researchers like myself use. And so Invio makes a cloud-based content management system that manages a lot of those documents and workflows to help get away from paper research binders. Leveraging that, we can start to introduce some really cool automation into the clinical trial space. Very forward-looking, but I think that that's the future of how research will be done. In terms of the team, there are 5 of us, including myself. That is mostly product-focused at this stage. We have a very experienced product person who has a deep background in design and usability. She's focused a lot on making this tool easy to use for people who are very used to paper. And then we also have 3 very strong technical folks on our team, including our CTO on that, who has previous experience working at Epic, which is the big electronic health records company out there. And so since EHRs are a big data source for clinical trials, having him on the team is very important for what we're doing. And I think your last question was our raise. So far we raised $550,000 in a seed round.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That background is really helpful. It sounds like you guys have an excellent team to tackle this issue.
I like to think so.
So I'll turn now just a bit to the program itself. And my question is, why did you decide to participate in the Cedars-Sinai Accelerator powered by Techstars? And I guess specifically, was there one thing that made you say, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this?
Yeah, interestingly, I think it was actually the combination of both Techstars and Cedars-Sinai. And what I mean by that is, Techstars obviously has amazing reputation in the startup space. I consider it to be the top accelerator. But I think that we probably wouldn't have gone with a Techstars City program because of the fact that we are so specialized. And so we're in a little bit of a complicated situation from our market because we sell into both the industry side of things, like drug and medical device companies, but also to research sites, and that includes Cedars-Sinai. And so for us, the combination of a Techstars program with a top research site like Cedars-Sinai was very compelling. And so, that's why this is the only accelerator program that we really seriously pursued or even really thought about applying into.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially given the space that you're in, I can understand that line of thinking. So, you had the Cedar side and the Techstars side that really made you interested in the program, decide to say yes. What was it like once you got into the program? And I guess specifically, what was your experience like with the mentors, both from the Techstars network and from Cedars-Sinai?
Yeah, actually, I'll start this answer by going back to the last question you had about what made you say, okay. I think that when we came in for live interviews, we were fairly advanced in the interview program. that's when we first met the mentors from Cedars-Sinai that we would be working with, as well as some of the mentors from the Techstars program. And it was at those live interviews that we realized the quality of the mentorship that would come out of the program. So we came into it with pretty high expectations. The quality of the discussions that we had before even starting the program were very good. And I'll say that once we started, we really weren't disappointed. People were astoundingly generous with their time. Cedars-Sinai is very busy, and so getting that level of access and just people being so friendly about helping us was a little bit weird at first. And I think that we were kind of warned to expect that, but you lean into it, and people are really genuinely invested in your success. They're helping because you're solving a problem that's important to them, and so it's really cool to get to engage people who are kind of thinking at that same space that you're thinking in.
Yeah.
On the Techstars side, it's interesting because Mentor Madness was a challenging couple of weeks. It's a lot of people that are thrown at you. There's a lot of good ideas, and they don't all agree with each other. And so part of the fun of that is just kind of figuring out how to quickly present what you're doing. Because unlike with Cedars-Sinai, when you're dealing with the mentors there, these are not specialists, and so you've got to get over the hump of explaining to somebody who may not be so specialized what you do, which is both explanation as well as presenting a mini business case.
Yeah.
And talking through how they could help you. Which again, like with Cedars-Sinai, is kind of a weird feeling at first, because that's really what the discussion is about: is how can we help you? And it comes through. But we landed with a few mentors that rounded out what we were looking for the program, and we were really excited to work with them during the program, and I think we will continue to work with at least a couple of them afterwards.
Great. Yeah, it's excellent to hear, continued relationships even after the 90 days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so can you talk a little bit about what was perhaps the most challenging part of the program, and what were some highlights?
Yeah, I think for me, the most challenging part was knowing when to shut up and listen. It's funny because when you're doing a startup, you're really invested in what you're doing, beyond just in a literal sense. I mean, it's kind of the main thing that you're thinking about. And it's really easy to get tunnel vision and to talk about what you're doing and to really, kind of not look outside the scope of that. But I guess the idea is you're used to really presenting a lot about what you're doing and always sort of pitching, explaining, selling. It takes a lot of effort to sort of put the reins on that, say what you have to say, and then just shut up and be like, what do you think I should do now? And I kind of feel like it took some learning. I wouldn't have thought this as a skill, but understanding that being mentored actually is kind of its own skill set.
Yeah.
And so as we started going to Mentor Madness, I realized that, hey, this is something I need to think about, is how best to engage a mentor. But I think that, that shift was probably the most difficult thing to navigate kind of early mid-program. But, that's, I think, part of the skills that you learn being part of Techstars.
Yeah.
As far as the highlights went, I mean, I think really there were quite a few. Let me put it that way. I think we're still probably riding high coming out of program so soon, but it was fun to see all of the companies in the cohort come through and develop their ideas. I think one thing that we were really excited about is that we didn't have any substantial pivots for our business model. Everybody we talked to wanted what we were doing.
Yeah.
It became clear that what we needed was to build more of what we had, not to change what we were doing, which was really exciting to come to that realization. But I think that, if we had been straying off course in some way, we would have quickly realized that. And so I think that level of broad validation across Cedars-Sinai and talking to so many people that are doing really cool research. My heart still is really in the clinical trial space. And so getting kind of shotgun exposure to a ton of researchers doing amazing work was really awesome for me personally.
That's great. That's excellent to hear. So I guess my final question to round us out is, if you were talking to a company that was in a similar position to where Invio was before coming into the program, would you recommend the program? And if you would, what advice would you give them in advance of their participation?
So I would absolutely recommend the program. I think you get so much more out of it than you put into it. and it's rare to find that kind of a value out of anything. But I think that the key piece to making that happen is knowing what you want out of the program. Be very clear about your goals. And so I think that's helpful both in the application process, because if you can speak intelligibly to what you're trying to get out of the program, it's a lot easier to figure out if you're a match for it. And then once you're in the program, it keeps you focused because, again, there's so many people with so many ideas and so much good material, but it's hard to parse all of that in the 3 months. And so if you have a plan that you're more or less sticking to with goals that you're trying to hit, it helps ask yourself, is this kind of a detour that we need to be taking, or is this a core thing that's fundamental to our business that'll help us?
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity that you want to really be sure to keep your eyes on the prize.
Yep. Yeah, that's really sound advice. Only so many hours in the day.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time for this short and sweet mini podcast. Yeah, really appreciate you answering my questions.
Happy to do it.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Bye.